Most personal brand advice helps you build a marketing strategy. The 7P framework helps you build a life's work. The kind where people don't just thank you for good advice, they thank you for changing their lives. I've made plenty of mistakes in my career, but I built in a foundation that became this framework. It's what allowed me to create a healthier life and a personal brand that stands out as distinct and authentic. I've seen this from every angle. As a recording artist, media producer, consulting founders on marketing, and coaching leaders across industries, most brilliant people do this backward. They chase what seems to work, pivot when it doesn't, and chase again. And their brand never feels consistent. People may respect their work, but they don't really connect with it on a deeper level. Here's the truth. Most experts try to sound safely likable. They sand down their edges and lose the only thing that creates a distinct brand, which is their unique voice. The 7P framework forces you past those safe answers. It's 7 questions that help you build on what's true. Answer them in the right order, and you build something you can spend the next 2 decades on. Something your kids would be proud you built. The first question starts with passion, but probably not the way you think. I'm Christian Ray Flores, founder of Xponential. We help leaders build and grow their brands, but they also refuse to build brands that don't fit their lives. The 7P framework starts with passion, not the motivational poster version, the version that determines whether you're still doing this in 20 years. We spend the most time here with our most accomplished clients, because when you're already done a lot, the hardest question becomes, what should I be known for?
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
I was recently working with a high performer planning his next 2 career moves. They were clashing. He was building towards goals that didn't align. Until we found his core passion and named it. And suddenly, the next 2 career moves, the books, the keynotes, the IP all made sense. And more importantly, they aligned with being a great husband and parenting his kids the way he was not parented. All leaders are successful because they're good at what they do, but some are dying inside because it isn't what they were meant for. They suffer from the competence trap, being so good at something you hate, you can't afford to quit. The 7P framework can be a course correction before you spend another decade climbing a ladder leaned against the wrong wall. The second P is people. Most advisors will start with your persona or ideal client, and that's somewhat backwards. First, your relationships are the single predictor of health, wealth, and happiness. If your plan treats your family and closest friends as an afterthought, you'll end up with 3 new businesses, 3 divorces, kids who resent you, and no real friends. That client that I mentioned, his career moves had to align with his family and other people he wants to be around. Get this wrong, and strategy turns into suffering sooner rather than later. Second is your team, the people you work shoulder to shoulder with. I've worked with many founders and talked to many venture capitalists who bet on business success for a living. We all agree, the number one reason for startup failure isn't the product or the capital, it's people. The wrong people dynamic sinks the best of ideas. Only third in this hierarchy is your audience. Once the first are right, you focus on them, their aspirations, their obstacles, their backstory. This brings me to the third P, pain. Not the peripheral kind, but the main one. You must be able to reveal the cause of your audience better than they can. In the words of Roy Vaden, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. Most experts fall into the curse of knowledge. You've forgotten what it's like to not know what you know. You speak in solutions, but your audience, they live in problems. When you describe the pain better than they can, you bypass their skepticism. I had a conversation recently where someone stopped me mid-sentence and jokingly said, "Christian, have you been reading my mail?" That's the moment you're looking for. When you can name their pain, trust skyrockets. You're no longer just another expert. You become the person who understands what they're actually going through. Think of these 3 Ps, passion, people, and pain, as the part of the iceberg invisible to the outside world. Under the water, foundational. Now we move to the part that's visible. The 4th P is promise. In an ocean of distractions, your promise is the frequency people tune into. It's the one thing you're 100% confident you can guarantee as an outcome. For example, I can guarantee any expert I accept into my program will have a detailed brand concept, content creation strategy, and business model to monetize their expertise in 9 weeks. Or that anyone I coach will 10x the quality and impact of their content in 6 months. This promise isn't vague, it's a clear, compelling outcome. Without a core offer like this that takes someone from point A to point B, your expertise kind of remains peripheral, not central to the survival instinct of the people who need you most. The 5th P is process. A promise attracts, but a process converts. Being a thought leader means channeling your broad expertise into a specific method. A process. turns your intuition into an asset. If your expertise is just in your head, it has no value without your presence. But when you codify it into a framework, it becomes intellectual property. The 7P framework you're learning right now, this is one of my process pillars. You develop a method, build it with principles, stories, and case studies, and these become the building blocks for your newsletter, your keynote speeches, and your books. Here's what can separate you from the crowd. If you can't crystallize your process and communicate it clearly, the credibility of your promise simply isn't there. But when you can describe your process so vividly that people get a dopamine hit of clarity that, oh, I can actually do this moment, you've cemented your value. They stop wondering if you can help and start seeing how.
Shut up and take my money.
Now you need a vehicle. The 6P is platform. This is where most experts hit a skill gap. For high-level leaders, the hurdle is usually status risk. You don't want to look like you're shouting for attention or come across as an amateur. On the other hand, if your expertise is invisible, for most people, you simply don't exist. Platform sits at the very top of the visible part of the iceberg, the vehicle to promote your expertise. My recommendation, master one platform, one topic, once a week for 1 year. Learn to make valuable content, and the platform will reward you with an audience that knows and trusts you. One platform, 1 year, exponential impact. Look, if I've kept your attention this far, it likely means that the 7P framework is exactly what you need. You already know our promise and our process at Xponential. If you want the solution we've built, whether you're looking to join our mastery community or become part of the legacy group, comment or DM the word apply. This is an application-only program for a limited number of leaders. We'll send you an offer document so you can see exactly how we can help. Before we wrap, the final P you need to know is profit. Many of us, including myself, have inherited toxic money beliefs that create a ceiling for our growth. But profit is the oxygen for our impact. Without it, our message stays small. When you have a brand that multiplies trust, you transition from operator to thought leader. Your influence extends beyond your organization. For my high-level clients, monetization happens through speaking, board positions, advisory roles, and strategic partnerships with equity. For those looking for a scalable business, we build a value ladder. This ensures your life's work is accessible to many, while your time is protected for the few. Here's how mine works. Free, high-value content for YouTube, podcast, and newsletter. Paid, mastery membership, hybrid coaching in cohort and one-on-one. Legacy membership, custom-developed inner circle coaching, and media support. A value ladder gives you diversified income so you can do what you love, build around the life you want. Something your kids would be proud you built. As I said in the beginning, most personal brand advice helps you build a branding strategy. The 7P framework helps you build a life's work. Now that you've learned this framework, watch this next video, the 3 high-leverage skills that bring this to life. Without these skills, your expertise will be locked in your head and immediate circles. So watch this video.